Incredible twist, a poor mother's urgent plea at a mafia boss's door reveals an unexpected miracle. The neon sign flickered above her, casting garish shadows on the cracked pavement as Sarah stood frozen in front of the heavy oak door. She brushed a stray hair back into place and fought the gnawing sensation in her stomach. Was this really the answer? The door before her led to a world of danger, but what choice did she have? Her son Timmy lay at home, his fragile body fighting a battle she couldn't afford. Taking a deep breath, she knocked, her heart thudding beneath her ribs like a war drum. Inside, the intimidating aura was palpable. She had heard the whispers around town, a single mother visiting Vincent, the Viper. Moretti was practically an invitation to trouble. Yet here she was, faced with an insurmountable choice: seek help from a man drenched in darkness in hopes of saving her child. Each passing second increased her dread. What was she thinking? She could endanger her family, herself, all for a chance that seemed so far from her grasp. When the door swung open, a figure loomed large. The look in Vincent's eyes was unsettling, shrouded in mystery and menace. But as Sarah began to speak, her voice trembled, laced with desperation as she recounted the rising bills, overdue notices, and the insidious treatments Timmy needed. With each word, she relayed her reality: dirty dishes piling in the sink, the ping of new notifications on her phone only deepening her sorrow, the sound of Timmy's quiet cough echoing in her mind. She was wavering, emotions colliding like a storm. She was scared, angry, but above all, she was fierce. A mother's strength surged, battling against the hesitation within her. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. When she finished, silence wrapped around them like a fog. Vincent's steely facade showed cracks as she spoke of family. Her sincerity sparked an unexpected emotion in the corner of his hardened heart. But ingrained in her was a fear deeper than the surreal situation, a dread of becoming entangled in his world. How could she trust him, a man who hinged on a thin line of lawlessness? Doubts flipped over in her mind like leaves caught in a gale. With each flicker of hope came an urgency that pulled her closer to the edge, but the criminal underbelly was riddled with treachery, and a rival gang wouldn't take kindly to her association with Vincent. The stakes were rising, and with them, Sarah's anxiety mounted. Here she was, standing at the precipice of desperation, her trust a fragile thread that could snap any moment. The clock was ticking louder in her ears, a constant reminder that Timmy's health would continue to deteriorate while she stood here, flirting with danger. What would she choose? The risks were towering and dark, but she would do anything for her son. And as uncertainty hung thick in the air, the unsettling thought struck her: in this desperate gamble, did she possess the moral clarity to navigate the blurred lines of right and wrong? Her heart raced at the impossible weight of her decision, hope flickering like a fragile candle, precariously hanging on the edge. The silence lingered, thickening in the air until it felt suffocating as Sarah waited for Vincent's response. His expression shifted, an unguarded flicker revealing that the weight of her words struck him deeper than she had anticipated. She could read the conflict behind his composed demeanor. It mirrored the chaos swirling inside her. "What you're asking comes with a price," he finally rumbled, his voice low and gravelly. "This isn't charity. I don't save lives because I have a soft spot for mothers." Tension coiled tightly in her chest. Of course, she understood this world of exchange. Nothing was ever free under Vincent's watch. But would she really be willing to pay whatever he demanded, no matter how far it veered from the path of her moral compass? The decision rippled through her like an electric shock. "Do you even know what you're getting into?" he continued, narrowing his eyes. "This isn't a game, Sarah. I can help you, but it'll put you in my debt. You might find yourself in places you never wanted to be." His words sank in and unknowingly tethered her thoughts to a darker path. Could she endure such a life? But Timmy's small, fragile frame flashed in her mind a boy who deserved more than the shadows that loomed over their reality. I know, she whispered, the weight of her conviction struggling to rise above the fear. I'll do anything for him. Vincent's piercing gaze held hers, channeling the gravity of their conversation. The second stretched as unsaid possibilities filled the space between them. For the first time, Sarah could sense the abyss calling her. This wasn't merely about saving Timmy anymore, it was about unearthing a deeper vein of resilience within herself. I can offer you a job, Vincent said, leaning back slightly in his chair, assessing her, as if gauging her tenacity. Not the sort of work you're used to, but you'd earn enough to cover the costs, and maybe more. Job? The thought rattled her. She pictured herself, hands dirty and stained with consequences, yet she considered it. Each layer of her naive expectations peeled away, revealing a steely resolve. Could she face the world from Vincent's side? What would I have to do? She asked, a newfound steadiness echoing in her tone. Vincent's smirk was almost imperceptible, a fleeting glimpse of amusement dancing across his lips. Let's just say, you'll be helping me with certain negotiations. No killing, but you'll need to learn how to play this game. An image of herself caught in a labyrinth of danger and treachery flickered in her mind, but her heart raced nonetheless. Adrenaline pumped through her veins. Consider it, Sarah. You've already crossed a line just by being here. The moment you made that knock, you sealed your fate. The question is whether you'll stand up and embrace it or let fear consume you. In that moment, clarity illuminated her path. The fear still clung to her but transformed into fierce determination. She realized that this could become her awakening the moment she carved out her own identity beyond a mere mother lost in despair. But as the prospect of a new life swirled before her, shadows from Vincent's world began to loom larger. Something wicked and dangerous loomed on the horizon. Could she juggle motherhood and this new reality? Think carefully, Sarah. You have a choice to make, and whatever you decide will not only affect you but also that little boy waiting at home. The offer hung in the air, heavy with implications. Sarah felt the weight of responsibility intertwining with the thrill of opportunity. As her heart raced, one thought gripped her tightly: this wasn't just about saving Timmy anymore, this was about finding the strength she never knew she had. The doorway to her new life stood before her. Would she walk through it? With every ounce of courage she could muster, she whispered, I'll do it. Little did she know, that moment would set in motion a chain of events neither she nor Vincent could foresee, plunging her deeper into a murky world where trust and betrayal danced perilously together. The path of sacrifice and transformation awaited, but at what cost? The moment approached when she'd have to confront not only the dark forces around her but the shadows lurking within her own soul. Vincent leaned forward, his predatory gaze sharpening as he studied her. In that moment, Sarah felt like prey under scrutiny, but a flicker of defiance ignited within her. The thrill of her decision surged, but it was laced with dread. The landscape of her new life rippled before her, uncertain and perilous. Good. We'll get started right away, he declared, dismissing the moment they had shared, shifting seamlessly into a mode of command. You'll need to learn quickly, so consider this a crash course in whatever it takes to navigate my world. As the words settled around her, they loaded her mind with the expectations she had just agreed to. Her surroundings blurred this sterile office, the polished furniture, the faint flicker of the overhead lights transforming into harsh, guiding beacons. Sarah's first assignment landed solidly in her mind's eye, meeting with one of Vincent's associates later that evening. Just thinking about it turned her stomach. Who were they? What would be required of her? She was stepping into shadows where loyalty could turn on a dime, and trust was a luxury. What do you want from me? She pressed, dragging herself back to focus. The sensation of powerlessness quaked in her chest, but she stomped down on it. This wasn't the time for hesitation. Vincent's lips curled, revealing the barest hint of amusement. Just your instinct, he responded smoothly. You might think you know how to read people, but you'll find that knowledge is key. Pay attention and learn to listen, that S where your true power lies. I can teach you the details, the negotiations, the tactics, but only you can tap into your gut. That will save you more than anything." With that, he handed her a simple notebook and a pen. "Take notes. You'll want to remember names, details, and strategies. Each page could be the difference between success and failure in this game." As she accepted the items, Sarah felt the weight pressing against her palms like a burden but also a brand new weapon. This wasn't just about getting by, it was about equipping herself for survival. She let it seep into her mind, stealing her resolve. Every word Vincent had spoken resonated within her, striking a chord of determination she hadn't expected to find. Following his instructions, she spent the next hours absorbing every detail about the undercurrents of Vincent's organization. The descriptions of the power players, their weaknesses, strengths, and vendettas unveiled themselves like a delicate tapestry. She made countless notes, her hand flew across the pages, frantic but purposeful. The fire ignited a deeper curiosity within her. In those moments, she began to understand the flexibility of the human spirit, how to bend without breaking, but soon, unease snaked through her burgeoning confidence. What would it take to master this world? The thrill of the plunge began to fade, replaced by the enormity of the task ahead. Would she truly be able to balance her dual roles as a mother and a negotiator in a mob context without losing herself? As night fell, she donned a carefully selected outfit, one that made her feel both respectable and fierce. Each button aligned with a mission. She was not just going to the meeting, she was embracing this new version of herself. She rehearsed her opening lines as she prepared to step outside her once safe zone. "Remember, Sarah," Vincent's voice echoed in her mind, "you're playing a game where the stakes are high." She took a breath, the weight of the air sharpening her clarity. "Showtime," she whispered to herself, her heart thumping like a drum as she walked towards the door. However, as she approached the meeting point, a sense of foreboding washed over her. The darkness of what she was diving into loomed larger, hinting at challenges that awaited, danger and deceit lurking just beyond the light that in this new world of shadows. Would she uncover the strength to maintain her integrity? The air thrummed with uncertainty as she made her way through the darkness, prompting one question to dance in her mind: what would she sacrifice to keep Timmy safe? It was then that her phone buzzed, a notification declaring that Vincent had sent her a message. It read simply, "Do not trust anyone." As uncertainty gripped her, she knew one thing for certain: the game had begun. Stepping into the dimly lit bar, Sarah's senses heightened. The air was thick with smoke and murmurs, a cacophony of laughter muffling her racing heartbeat. She scanned the room, noting the men in tailored suits and women in striking dresses, a clear delineation between the powerful and the wallflowers. Sarah felt the world pivot, her anxiety twirling around her like the whiskey in the glass of a nearby patron. This was it. Her chance to make a mark. She found a small table in the corner, the shadows wrapping around her like a cocoon, granting her both anonymity and an unsettling awareness of the eyes that combed the atmosphere. She took a deep breath, hoping to anchor her inner turmoil. It wasn't just about surviving tonight, it was about proving she could navigate this labyrinth of power. With her notebook clutched tightly, she recalled Vincent's advice on listening. Her instincts trembled at the edges of apprehension, yet now would not be the moment to falter. She opened the notebook, her eyes tracing the notes she'd penned earlier about the associate she was set to meet. Benjamin, a man known for his cold demeanor, would be a challenge. If Vincent was convinced he wouldn't tear her apart, then she had a chance if only she could navigate the conversation tactfully. Moments later, Benjamin entered the bar, exuding confidence and an air of authority. The way he carried himself suggested years of manipulation. He was a puppeteer, and tonight, Sarah was uncertain if she was the string or the puppet. As they locked eyes, she felt an electric jolt. It was more than fear, it was recognition. He was a man who had faced decisions that blurred the lines between right and wrong. "Ms. Hayes," he said, offering a curt nod before taking a seat opposite her. "You're far from home." His words tasted like a challenge. Sarah steadied her breath, positioning herself to respond not just with her words, but with intention. "Home does matter, but survival matters more." A slight smile flickered across his lips. I like that. You're not as naive as I expected. Vincent must have faith in you. His words were a double-edged sword, laced with both encouragement and potential danger. The knife edge of her resolve felt sharp in her gut, and she pressed on, determined not to be a passive figure at the table. Faith requires practice and discipline, she replied, surprised by her own measured tone. I'm here to make sure nobody loses in this deal we're discussing. Benjamin leaned back, an impressed glimmer crossing his face. The game had shifted. She could almost sense the gears clicking into place. Maybe, just maybe, she could wield some influence in this treacherous domain. Their conversation turned to numbers and projections, the groundwork of their negotiation solidifying the stakes. Sarah realized how deeply she was processing his language, not just the specific terms he used but the deeper motivations hidden behind them. Her instincts, sharpened by desperation and the lessons learned from Vincent, honed in on inconsistencies in his demeanor. But then an unexpected turn. A softening of his sharp gaze as he leaned closer. You know, I've been observing you. Kids have a way of bringing out the best and worst in us, don't they? What would you do if you had to choose between lifelong ambition and keeping your child safe? His question hit her like a punch, pulling her out of her professional posture. This was not just business, it was personal. And for a moment, vulnerability slipped through the cracks. I fight tooth and nail to ensure my son is protected. Nothing else comes close. A silence settled as her words hung in the air, both a challenge and a confession. In that moment, Sarah understood, sometimes, in this brutal game of power, the only way to gain influence is to reveal a glimpse of your humanity, even if it meant weaving her truth into dangerous territory. But as the weight of what she exposed resonated with him, unease unfurled in her chest. Was she revealing too much? Testing if his empathy was a facade. Just then, her phone buzzed again, a pulse of urgency breaking the tension. It was another message from Vincent: do not let your guard down. Find the leverage. The clarity of purpose reasserted itself, but now that clarity was laced with an unsettling realization. The depths of this negotiation were darker than she anticipated. How far would she go to protect Timmy, and what sacrifices would her ambition ultimately demand? Sarah lingered on her next move, weighing the emerging connection against her unsettled instincts. Would she emerge from this meeting with the information she needed, or had she unwittingly stepped into a trap? As Benjamin's gaze lingered on her, the room fell away, and she knew, the game had elevated. What she truly needed was set against the backdrop of moral upheaval, a decisive moment approaching. Would this be her chance to turn the tides, or would the next twist in fate spiral beyond her capabilities to endure? She braced herself for the confrontation ahead, where personal stakes and the shadows of betrayal intertwined. The balance felt precarious, the stakes uncomfortably real. The moment of truth drew near, beckoning her into the unknown. As the weight of her confession hung heavy in the air, Sarah's thoughts whirled. What had she just exposed? The question echoed through her mind like a relentless drumbeat. She had intended to display strength, to demonstrate she was a player in this ruthless negotiation, not an emotional pawn. But now, with Benjamin's penetrating gaze fixed on her, she felt a fracture in her carefully constructed facade. If you want to protect your son, you'll need to understand what you are truly fighting against, he said, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. The intensity of his words ignited a fire within her. Here was a man who understood the stakes, the raw, tangled reality of ambition, safety, and sacrifice. Yet, she needed to play this right. Every word counted now, every moment. What do you mean? She asked, her voice steady but laced with a subconscious plea for insight. This was the moment she had been waiting for, and she had to harness it. His lips widened into a sly grin. Ambition can cloud your judgment. You represent a threat to a balance that many would prefer to keep intact. But I can help you navigate these waters, if you're willing to trust me. Trust. The very notion sent a shiver down her spine. She felt drawn to him, yet wariness gnawed at her like doubts at a threadbare seam. She needed to remain objective. What's in it for you? Sarah countered, adopting a more defensive stance. There's always a price. Benjamin chuckled softly, the sound smooth and unsettling. You're learning, Miss Hayes. I admire that. He leaned back, tapping his fingers together in a slow rhythm. My interests align with yours, for now. A partnership, if you will. But understand, every choice comes with its consequences. The air shifted again, a palpable tension enveloped them, wrapping around her like a vice. She could hear the cacophony of the bar dimming, the voices fading into the background. Everything fell away except for the possibilities that lay before her. Let us negotiate, then, Sarah said, the defiance emerging in her stance. If you truly believe in this partnership, then let us solidify what it looks like. Benjamin's eyes sparkled with intrigue, taking a measure of her tenacity. He leaned forward, narrowing the space between them. You realize how delicate a negotiation becomes when it's premised on trust, don't you? You might not just endanger yourself but your son as well. There are players willing to use such vulnerabilities. The cautionary hint tightened the air around her. Again, the stakes escalated. What are you saying? She pressed, feeling her heart race. I'm saying, he replied, the tension thickening, that this deal goes beyond numbers. It's about loyalties. You pull one thread, and it can unravel your entire world. His measured tone sent echoes of uncertainty through her. As their discussion dragged deeper, Sarah felt the necessity of leveraging everything she had: her knowledge, instincts, and the hunger for a better life for Timmy. She wasn't backing down, this was her life on the line. Benjamin stared intently at her, a thoughtful expression crossing his features. Perhaps we should explore just how cutthroat this decision needs to be, he proposed, placing the weight of the conversation squarely on her shoulders. The intensity in the room shifted, her resolve hardened. I'll do whatever it takes to protect my son. But I need to know what I'm stepping into. With a nod, he acknowledged her determination. Then it's time we review the broader game board. His words pulled her deeper into a narrative she wasn't yet prepared to navigate. She knew there were layers beyond this surface, murky depths teeming with potential dangers. Timmy might be the heart at risk, but she was also on trial. Every decision would define not only her professional path but her very identity as a mother. Determination surged within her as Sarah prepared to face this unfolding labyrinth of choices. Could she really merge her ambition with her devotion, crafting a path that would lead to the safety she sought? Her thoughts raced back to Vincent's warning. The leverage was out there, she just needed to uncover it without losing herself in the process. Then let us uncover the real landscape, she declared. Together. Benjamin's expression morphed from intrigue to something darker, an acknowledgement of shared danger. Their alliance would change the stakes, she could feel it coiling deeper around them. As she embarked on this journey alongside him, a thought emerged: the line between protector and predator could blur more swiftly than she imagined. The implications gnawed at her insides, igniting an urgent need to plan her next move, and as Benjamin leaned back, seemingly satisfied, she realized the shadows were thickening. Every step forward would require ceding ground she wasn't sure she could afford to lose. Are you ready for what comes next? He asked, his voice laced with curiosity and warning. With her stomach tight and every nerve aflame, she braced herself for the unknown. Something deeper awaited them in the revelations to come. Would she find her footing, or would each decision chain her to a fate darker than she could foresee? This partnership was merely a prelude, the real battle loomed just ahead. Sarah's mind raced as the weight of Benjamin's words lingered in the air. A partnership? The very idea felt perilous, yet she sensed an opportunity, a chance to reclaim her narrative. As she stared into his piercing eyes, she began to process the implications. Her next move could either fortify her or plunge her deeper into danger. Show me this broader game board, she challenged, dragging her fingers through her hair, a sudden burst of clarity sharpening her focus. The bar felt suffocating, a cocoon of risks that simmered under her skin. She needed to turn this conversation into something actionable. Benjamin leaned back slightly, an amused glint in his eyes, as if to appreciate her newfound resolve. Ambition is never born from comfort. The darkness you're about to wade into requires a different kind of fortitude. His words snaked into her conscious awareness. Fortitude. She had thought she'd come to terms with the enormity of her situation. Now, faced with the prospect of forging an alliance with Benjamin, she realized she hadn't even scratched the surface of her own strength, her own willingness to confront the chaotic environment around her. What kind of darkness are we talking about? She pressed, the lines of inquiry deepening. Every part of her trembled at the thought of sacrificing her morals, losing herself in the pursuit of safety for Timmy. The kind where information is power and loyalty is currency. If you want protection, you often must offer something in return that cuts deeper than you might perceive, he replied, casually swirling the whiskey in his glass. What do you want from me? She demanded, feeling the precarious balance of power shift. It's not what I want from you, but what you have to offer. Your past, your connections and yes, your vulnerability. You've already demonstrated that you're capable of sacrifice. The implications of vulnerability gnawed at her thoughts. It was precisely that vulnerability that had driven her into this chamber of moral compromise. Sarah studied him, weighing her options against the growing dread within her. Could she navigate this thorny thicket without losing her sense of self? What do you see in me that makes you think I'm suitable for this? She asked, more out of defiance than genuine curiosity. You're resourceful, you're willing to fight. Most importantly, you understand what's at stake. Some people only see the battle, you see the war, he countered, each syllable dripping with calculated conviction, his words hung in the air, reverberating against the chamber of her mind. Yes, she had fought tooth and nail to get where she was. But this was a different realm, a brutal sandbox where truth was malleable and trust could be twisted into perilous silhouettes. I'm not afraid of the war, she confessed, her voice barely above a whisper, a surge of confidence spilling forth. But I refuse to be a pawn in someone else's game. Benjamin nodded appreciatively, recognizing the fire igniting within her. Then we begin by identifying who stands at the helm of this game and how best to approach them. These players aren't just foes, they are a network, each thread woven into a larger tapestry. A chill crept into her spine. The network. The maze of alliances and enmities that surrounded her. The prospect terrified her, yet it also sparked a realization, maybe her vulnerability could be transformed into leverage, a potent weapon she could wield proactively. And what if I disrupt their balance? She questioned, excitement creeping into her tone. Then we'll need to be ready for retaliation, he warned, his expression growing grave. But know this, disruption also invites opportunity. There's a change in the air, I can sense it. Resilience blossomed within her. The very idea of disruption shifted something inside Sarah. It reminded her of the time she had successfully navigated the bureaucratic layers of her previous job. She had turned challenges into stepping stones. I can uncover their weaknesses, she asserted, formulating a tentative strategy. If I understand what drives them, I can find a way to position us advantageously. Benjamin smiled, leaning in closer, captivated by her shift in perception. Now you're thinking like a true contender. But we must act swiftly, and that means diving deep into their world. Are you prepared to embrace shadows for the sake of your light? Her resolve solidified. The shadows were thickening, but she wasn't afraid. She understood what was at stake. Her son's future and courage surged within her. Then let us begin, she declared, a newfound determination solidifying her voice. The fire within her roared to life, illuminating paths she had yet to uncover. The implications of their plan grew clearer as she prepared to step into the unknown with him. But with every layer they unpeeled, a question loomed like a specter. Would she be able to withstand the tests that awaited her? What sacrifices lay beneath this alluring opportunity? As Benjamin stood, leading the way through the haze of doubt and potential, her heart thrummed relentlessly. She had crossed into a perilous domain. How long could she maintain her identity amidst the tempest? The moment of reckoning arrived. What lay ahead would challenge everything she thought she knew about herself. Would the risks embolden her or fracture the pieces she fought so hard to hold together? Sarah followed Benjamin through the dimly lit alley outside the bar, her pulse racing with anticipation. Each step felt like a plunge into the uncertain waters of her new reality, the air thick with the scent of rain-soaked pavement and danger. She steadied her breath. This was no ordinary venture into the unknown. She was stepping into a world where every interaction could shift the ground beneath her feet. Focus on what you can uncover, Benjamin instructed as they approached a discreet entrance marked only by a faint glow from a flickering neon sign. It struck her how confident he was, like a shrewd chess player overseeing the board, while she was still learning how the pieces moved. How am I supposed to do that? The question escaped before she could filter it. Despite her bravado, self-doubt crept in like an unwelcome guest. Start by connecting the dots. Everyone has a weakness, find theirs, and you can leverage yours. He pushed the door open, the sudden rush of sound swallowing her concerns. Inside, a crowd mingled around tables crammed with people immersed in hushed discussions. Sarah inhaled deeply, sensing the charged atmosphere. It felt electric. She didn't just need information, she must craft a narrative that would allow her presence to be noticed, valued even. Her heart raced, not solely from fear, but with a thrilling sense of possibility. Remember, every conversation is an opportunity, Benjamin said, moving through the throng with an ease she hadn't yet mastered. It wasn't just about garnering intelligence, it was also about weaving herself into the fabric of this world, a task that felt monumental but essential. She surveyed the room, absorbing the expressions, the language of bodies around her. They were seasoned players, and she must become adept at navigating their cues. With each passing moment, the weight of her mission consumed her thoughts, to find leverage, to protect Timmy. Follow my lead, Benjamin advised, and as they approached a table of men discussing something animatedly, she felt an inexplicable surge of confidence. She was ready to discard her hesitations, the urgency to reclaim her agency eclipsed everything. Benjamin leaned forward, gesturing to one of the men. Vinny, this is Sarah. She has insights that may be valuable to us. The man regarded her with a mix of skepticism and curiosity. Is that so? What can a mom possibly know? The accusation landed like a slap, a reminder of her previous insecurities and the world's judgment of her ordinary existence. Before she could become entangled in her own defensiveness, she steadied her breathing, recalling the resolve she had uncovered moments ago. If you think my experiences as a mother hold no weight, then you underestimate the lengths I would go to protect what truly matters. Her voice was steady, and she watched as the man's expression shifted from dismissal to intrigue. Benjamin leaned back, sensing the shift in the air, a satisfied smirk on his face. Tell us more, Vinny challenged, folding his arms, now leaning closer to Sarah. She sensed the shift as all eyes turned toward her. This was her moment. Rising to the occasion, Sarah delivered a narrative woven with authenticity and vulnerability. She spoke about the stakes she faced, drawing parallels between her own fight for Timmy's safety and the battles they all fought within this intricate web of power and loyalty. As she spoke, a flicker of realization crossed Vinny's face that it was exhilarating to be heard and seen, but what truly surged through her was the knowledge that she, too, possessed a hidden strength, a sense of urgency that could position her as more than just a liaison. As Vinny began to share his own experiences underlining the value of protective instinct, she felt a burgeoning connection, a bridge forming between their worlds. Yet, even as she navigated this complex landscape, lingering in the shadows was the weight of her impending choices. The stakes were higher than simply gaining their trust. She was standing at the precipice of her transformation, each conversation revealing latent skills she hadn't realized she possessed. Would embracing the darker aspects of this world ultimately empower her or lead her astray? In that moment, a figure approaching their table caught her attention. There was a tension in the air, palpable and undeniable. A sharp intuition urged her to prepare for whatever was about to unfold. What interruptions could shake the foundation of the alliances she was just beginning to forge? And what darkness awaited her beyond this initial step into their world? Sarah's breath hitched as the figure emerged from the shadows and approached their table. He was tall, draped in an expensive dark jacket, the corners of his mouth curling into a knowing smile. There was an air of authority about him that made the crowd part almost instinctively. Sarah felt the rapid thump of her heart against her ribcage. This was not just anyone. Benjamin, the newcomer, greeted coolly, his eyes sliding momentarily to Sarah. "And you must be the mama bear everyone has been whispering about." "Leo," Benjamin nodded, his tone shifting from casual to respectful, making Sarah acutely aware of the power dynamics in play. "We were just discussing how a mother would be able to contribute in this." Leo's gaze sharpened on her, assessing, calculating. World. The confidence she felt mere moments ago began to evaporate under his scrutiny. She forced herself to maintain eye contact, even as doubt clawed at her. "Let us put the cards on the table," Leo continued, making himself comfortable on the edge of their table. "You might think you can negotiate your way into something here, but trust doesn't come easily. You're treading on thin ice." His statement bore a dual meaning, a veiled warning that sent a shiver through her. She had taken her first steps into a realm filled with danger, and one misstep could shatter everything. Timmy's safety depended not only on her resolve but also on her ability to navigate treachery with finesse. Sarah's inner dialogue erupted, questions begging for clarity. Was this her chance to stand her ground, or was it too early to unveil her intentions? "Then tell me," she interjected, her voice firmer than she felt, "what does it mean to have my back? What do you stand to gain from helping me?" Leo's eyebrows raised in surprise at her audacity. "Interesting question. Everyone wants something. Even you, I presume." In this split second, amid swirling uncertainty, she felt a flicker of her motherly instincts interject with a hopefulness she hadn't expected. "You're right. I want security for my son. And I'm willing to work for that. Can you say the same for your people?" He regarded her with an expression of both intrigue and respect. "What do you propose?" "The competition isn't just tonight, it's an ongoing chess game." Sarah's thoughts whirled as she sensed an opening. She could either throw herself into the abyss of deals and betrayals or find a way to harness this chaotic landscape for her own ends. "I can offer insights from a perspective you might overlook. The instincts of someone who has everything to lose. That's not enough." Leo leaned back, his smile returning as though amused by the challenge posed. "You'll have to entice us further. What can you bring to this table that proves your worth?" The burden of their scrutiny intensified. Benjamin remained silent, watching her keenly, perhaps judging this critical juncture. Sarah took a quick mental inventory of her strengths, her past experiences suddenly shifting in her mind's eye. She had known fear and loss, but she had also triumphed over small battles that could turn the tide in her favor. "Listen," Sarah started, her voice much steadier, "I have connections that can access information that may not be in your realm. Local networks, community insights, all the people you might not think to question." Each word poured out urgently, her resolve solidifying like steel. "Caring for someone makes you notice things that can be used to your advantage." Vinny smirked, folding his arms. "She's got spirit, I'll give her that," he mused. The air felt thick with momentum as the room shifted subtly, her narrative growing roots among the assembled men. "Then we may just have a partnership," Leo declared, his tone shifting the atmosphere. "But know this, Sarah, a contract of loyalty comes with consequences." In that daunting moment, Sarah hesitated, questioning how far she was willing to plunge into this world, what parts of herself she might sacrifice. The taste of power began to lift her spirits, yet the shadows of her values loomed ominously over her ambitions. "I understand," she said finally, her heart racing, as she sealed an affinity that could pivot everything in her life, shaping her into something she hadn't planned to become. The challenge shifted, a weighty decision now rested on her shoulders. But Leo's gaze suddenly hardened, and his expression shifted as he leaned back. "Remember, the wrong move could have consequences far beyond your imagination, Sarah." Fear curled around her once more, intertwining with her resolve. What lay ahead was a delicate balance between strength and compromise. With tensions that hung as thick as smoke in the air, Sarah now faced an uncharted part of her journey. Would she become the leverage she sought, or would this domain risk threatening everything she held dear? As silence enveloped them, an unsettling feeling loomed. They had embarked on a path into an abyss. And somewhere within it, secrets slumbered, eager to be uncovered. What heart-stopping truths were waiting just beneath the surface, and how would they alter her destiny? Sarah's heart raced as the weight of Leo's gaze pressed down, probing her very essence. She had been thrust into a world where every word could be a weapon and every decision a landmine. The mix of desire and dread coiled within her, battling for supremacy. With each tick of the clock, the conversation simmered in a silent battlefield. Her determination swelled. She had come too far to falter now. "Do you think I'm naive?" she asked, her voice laced with edge. "I know what's at stake. I'm not here to play games, Leo. I'm ready to engage. To be a real partner, I must navigate your world, and I won't do it blindly." Benjamin remained quiet, his expression inscrutable, but there was a glimmer of approval in his eyes, igniting a flicker of hope in her. She needed allies, not just intrigues. Leo considered her, those calculating eyes narrowing with each heartbeat that passed. "If you truly want to play, you must understand the rules. Trust is rare currency here." "How do I earn it?" she pressed, feeling the urgency of her situation amplify. She couldn't shake the sensation that this was a pivotal moment, her chance to build a foundation that might bring some semblance of safety for Timmy. "Deliver value," Leo said bluntly. "Prove that your connections are worth more than whispers. Get me information on the Navarro family. Not the surface-level gossip, something real. Something I can use." An electric current shot through her. The Navarro family was notorious, layered in secrecy and peril. Her instincts screamed that this could easily become treacherous. Yet, her thoughts flickered to Timmy and the promise she made to secure his future. "I can dig deeper," she asserted, coating her fear with determination. "I know people who can help. They respect my tenacity, I just need a little time." Leo's lips curled into a sardonic smile that felt both inviting and ominous. "Time is a luxury you won't have. The sooner the better, Sarah." The challenge hung between them, a delicate thread woven with desperation and ambition. She knew she was stepping into a treacherous labyrinth filled with unseen dangers, yet the pull was now undeniably strong. "Consider this your trail mark," Leo added, leaning in closer. "Succeed, and you might find yourself rising through the ranks. Fail, and you will be discarded just like the others who thought they could play this game." Those words struck her like a cold wave. In this world, failure held a cost she couldn't afford. Sarah's throat tightened, and she swallowed hard, forcing out the words. "I won't fail." With that vow, time seemed to stretch, the future bursting forth with potential failures and unforeseen threats. She would need allies, solid footing, and a fierce strategy. After the confrontation, the reality of her choices weighed heavily around her shoulders. Back in the safety of her apartment, she couldn't shake the veiled threats Leo had laid before her. As night deepened, illuminating her surroundings with stark shadows, she reflected on her plan. First, she needed to reach out to her contacts, those who could infiltrate the local network and dig up the dirt she needed. She had barely scratched the surface before, but now armed with purpose, she felt a stirring of resolve. Each connection she made could bear fruit, but a nagging doubt shadowed her determination. How deep into this darkness was she willing to venture? Each step could paint her soul with risk, dragging her closer to a precipice. As she mined her mind for strategies, the question weighed in, what hidden truths lay within the Navarro family that could change everything? Could she turn fear into leverage without losing herself entirely along the way? As Sarah dialed the first number in her contacts, the ringing transformed into a haunting chime, echoing the stakes she had entered. She could feel the abyss drawing closer, and with it, consequences that would reshape her identity, for better or worse. Would she rise as a contender or crumble under pressure? The future awaited, shrouded in uncertainty, while the promise of safety for Timmy fueled her. Desire to unravel the dark mysteries that loomed overhead. In the pulsating stillness, Sarah felt the pivotal choice pace in the shadows. The moment had arrived to confront the unseen dangers, and lurking within them perhaps was a discovery that could alter her fate forever. Days rolled into weeks as Sarah plunged further into the murky world of Vincent and Benjamin, both driven by an urgency to achieve financial stability for Timmy and the cracks in her conscience that widened with each passing day. She transformed from a desperate mother into a formidable player in a dangerous game, her instincts sharp as she navigated the treacherous waters of mob power struggles. Each meeting with Benjamin unveiled layers of complexity within her. The once timid woman now wielded a determination forged in the fires of fear and obligation. The weeks had built a steady rhythm marked by negotiations, cold calculations, and unsettling alliances. Sarah learned to wield her vulnerability as a weapon, to convert it into insights that could pierce the armor of those she faced. Tasked with the quest for information on the Navarro family, she doubled down on her strategy, employing every network and connection she had to gather knowledge. What began as fleeting whispers transformed into substantial intel that could tip scales in this dangerous chess match. One fateful night, gathering in the sterile coldness of Vincent's private lounge, she presented her findings to Benjamin, who leaned back, eyes glimmering with intrigue, appraising her newfound prowess. "You've proven yourself, Sarah," he declared, his voice reverberating with unapologetic respect. "But this is a double-edged sword. The information you've unearthed reveals more than just layers of rivalry, it paints a target on your back." Grappling with the baking pressure of impending danger, Sarah felt a knot in her stomach unravel into something raw and profound confidence. "I'm prepared for whatever may come," she acknowledged, her voice laced with the certainty that had grown over months of calculated decisions. She realized that every moment spent in this world had hardened her. For the first time, she felt a greater sense of purpose layered with personal distinction, no longer merely a mother, but a strategist, a warrior battling not just for Timmy, but for her very identity. As Benjamin slid deeper into discussions about next steps, voices warped into mere background hum against her burgeoning resolve. "Your protection must also extend to your son," he instructed. "Bring him to a safe house until we settle our score with the Navarros." The thought of Timmy being whisked away into secret rooms among strangers chipped away at her sense of control. "No. I will not have him live in shadows, in fear." The very essence of her protest rang true. This was not the upbringing she envisioned for Timmy. Fueled by the weight of her choices, Sarah declared, "I will protect him without stepping into a darkness that consumes us both." The room fell silent, and within that pause, she felt a shift. Benjamin assessed her with a flicker of respect, perhaps recognizing the fierce spirit that powered her rebellion against the very encroachment of the life she had taken on. Days later, the culmination of her journey towards self-discovery reached its zenith during a confrontation with the Navarros. Unequipped with a weapon but armed with insight, Sarah stood at the helm of a negotiation designed to protect her son's future while solidifying her newfound identity. The Navarro family, marked by their reputation of chaos and grandeur, were not to be underestimated. "Information is a powerful currency, but trust is the bedrock," she stated, positioned firmly against their intimidation tactics. This time, Sarah was not merely the desperate mother knocking at the door of danger. She stood resolute, a conduit of strength that had been cultivated through her journey, a journey that defied the odds stacked against her. As the negotiation unfolded, tensions crackled through the air. Sarah translated the details she pieced together, effectively using their fear of exposure as leverage against them. The room fluctuated between tension and fascination, with the Navarros caught off balance by her audacity. "You think you can intimidate me? That I fold under pressure? I am not afraid of your shadows," she declared, her voice echoing through the charged atmosphere. The moment was monumental. With every word, she redefined her position and with it, her worth. The Navarros leaned closer, intrigued by the unexpected force that had emerged before them. Sarah felt the power shift. She was no longer overwhelmed but in control, demonstrating the metamorphosis she had undergone since knocking on Vincent's door. That night, she returned home, triumphant, a genuine feeling of empowerment coursing through her veins. She had faced the darkness and emerged not unscathed, but undeniably transformed into a bastion of resilience and strength. Timmy's laughter spilled through the small apartment as she opened the door, wrapping her arms around him. For the first time since this journey began, she felt genuine fulfillment: a mother, a protector, a woman of purpose. And no longer would her past dictate her future. She had stepped into her power and solidified her role not just as a mother fighting for her child, but as a formidable player unearthing the layers of her own identity. Her life was no longer solely about survival, it was about thriving in a complex, unpredictable world. As her gaze fell out into the star-drenched sky, Sarah whispered softly, undeniable conviction blooming within her, this climb only leads upward from here. She had broken through the barriers that had once confined her, and now, she could truly conquer anything. The path she carved stood before her as steadfast as her resolve. It was not just about protecting Timmy anymore, it was about the power to reshape her own destiny. You need to subscribe now, don't wait even one more second to support this channel and explore more incredible personal transformation stories. Leave a like now to make a difference, to fuel the algorithm for more empowering content. Comment your thoughts on Sarah's journey and your theories on what lies ahead. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who are fighting their own battles and need to see this conclusion.